It looks a very professional
It
setup where you
is.
are.
Yeah, it's in Great Portland Street. It's lovely.
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much for agreeing to this, Mark.
That's okay.
It's really lovely to have you on this podcast. So I just want to introduce Marc Rowley to everyone. So for those who don't know you, I know you are the founder and CEO of Hit Leadership, and you have a real focus on toxic workplaces, on improving employee retention, on helping improve productivity and therefore revenue, because they're linked. If you have a positive and happy workforce, your productivity goes up and therefore your revenue goes up. So they are linked. So it's really great to have you on this podcast. And I just want to start off with talking about toxic workplaces with you. Can you
Hmm.
actually explain what a toxic workplace actually looks like, and why do so many go undetected for so long?
Yeah, well, a toxic workplace often includes micromanagement, blame culture, bullying disguised as banter.
Yeah.
No excuse for that. Exclusion, constant negativity, and of course, our old favourite, manipulation. So people feel unsafe speaking up. If there's no psychological safety, they won't speak up. They won't even put it in exit reviews. That toxic behaviour becomes like normalised
Yeah.
because leaders dismiss complaints as being isolated incidents, or employees feel retaliation or causing it. This actually causes issues to remain hidden and unresolved. So all those issues that are there, they don't happen. And over time, this silence actually protects the perpetrators, and it deters accountability, which we really need in businesses. And exit interviews are rarely acted on, and
Yeah.
internal surveys get filtered or sugar coated. It's just a continuous, like, fear learned helplessness.
Yeah.
And the poor
No.
leadership all helps that dysfunctional and that's behind the surface level.
It's interesting you talked about exit interviews actually, because I only ever had one exit interview in my career. And actually, I remember having the one exit interview, and the person interviewing me was quite surprised by some of the things I was saying. But equally, I was surprised that she was so surprised. So it just goes to show that sometimes certain workplaces might wait too long and it's too late. And by that point, the employee's already ready to go. And
Absolutely.
if they've not been in the know, if HR haven't been involved, then that's a real issue. And you talked about manipulation and a lot of that banter being disguised as banter, but it's not really banter. They say it's banter, but it's
Mm,
not.
no, not at all. And I think as well, exit interviews are only good if you have that psychological safety in the business already for people to be able to be open and and honest. And I've done exit interviews, and people have just gone, "I'm not giving one. No, no, I'm
Yeah,
leaving. I'm
shocking.
just leaving." And because they feel retaliation, they feel it's going to affect future job roles. I mean, I do try and tell them, look, we as a business, especially if you're a large corporate, you would just give the name and the position of the person, where they were. You don't give any other details. I think it's to protect them
Yeah.
against being sued or something. So, if people really understood that, they'd be more open and honest.
Yeah,
Unless they're
absolutely.
looking for a personal reference from their leader or manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Um,
well, you've worked with a wide range of teams as well, though,
yeah.
haven't you? So what is one moment that really opened your eyes to how damaging poor leadership can be?
That's a really good question. I remember the moment. It was a moment where my boss humiliated me in front of the entire team. So my colleagues were there, some of the assistants were there as well. So it was really the entire team. And I had just managed to win a new client, and quite a few of my colleagues had been trying to win this client for quite some time and hadn't been successful. And rather than celebrating the win, and saying well done, which is what I expected. I was actually humiliated, and certain, sexual innuendos were made in terms of how I
Ooh.
might have won that client, as opposed to celebrating it as a team. And I felt so humiliated in that moment.
Mm.
I just wanted to disappear. And it was really quite upsetting because no one in the team actually stood up for me or said, this is really inappropriate. And yeah, it was a very embarrassing moment for me. But actually, what I would want to tell my younger self is it's not a reflection on me, it's a reflection on toxic leadership. And actually,
Absolutely.
I shouldn't have been the one to feel embarrassed. The boss should have felt embarrassed. And that's just a clear example of someone not being a leader, but someone using narcissistic leadership to actually humiliate someone in the team and not focusing on their technical capabilities and technical qualities.
The jealousy as well. I
Mm.
mean, professional jealousy, ego. Yeah, we see a lot of, I've seen a lot of that in businesses. It's ego's good when you're selling, but not when it overtakes your humbleness.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Totally.
it really is. So, I mean, with what you've just said, then, what is something most leaders get completely wrong about what makes it a team high performing? Because obviously you were a high performer, and your leader didn't understand that, and obviously, whether it's jealousy or
Yeah.
that narcissism. So, what do they get completely wrong?
I think what they get completely wrong is they're so focused on the bottom line and your numbers, but they
Mm,
actually sometimes forget that it's about relationship. And relationship is what then leads you to trust. So actually, if a client trusts you, they're going to want you to look after them. They're going to give you more business. They're going to introduce you to other people. And that's then like a domino effect. And
mm,
so I think very often we forget that. And there's so much of a focus on what have you brought in? What have you brought in? What are your numbers looking like? And not understanding that sometimes it takes time and that relationship doesn't come overnight. It really is a stepping stone and it takes
mm.
time. And that trust is so important. And I know the best team leaders, the best bosses I had were ones who really understood the importance of relationship. I
Oh,
mean,
without a doubt, isn't it? It's those leaders that really do understand it. I think you hit on some
yeah,
good points that think as well. When you're just focusing on one metric, like you said, and not looking at the employee satisfaction, the customer
yeah,
satisfaction, the feedback, and yeah, it's so important, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. It is really important, and I feel that not enough is focused on that. I actually wanted to talk to you about burnout
Mm,
because it's something that we hear and see a lot of at the moment. And I know, particularly when I was working in the finance industry, there were people who, would go off work for long periods of time, but it was never really addressed what was happening. And it's more in the language I feel now. We talk about burnout, and you must see a lot of it. What are the costs of ignoring it, and how do we get to that stage where people are feeling that burnout?
well, if the product loss of productivity of one person going and then putting the strain on everybody else, which is going to add additional burnout.
Mm,
I mean, those kind of toxic environments really drain the employees emotionally and physically and mentally, and that's what accelerates the burnout. Um, and I think ignoring that burnout leads to absenteeism, which is a massive cost, increased errors, which you could be failing SLAs, causing issues, decreased productivity, which I've just mentioned. So productivity goes down when you've got less numbers. You've got damaged morale, because if someone hears about burnout, people start to wonder, am I burnt out? Why is that person burning out? Have they got their own issues? Have we missed something? I think higher recruitment expenses and loss of expertise, because you could be burning out your best performing people, and to get that level of expertise is going to cost you. But you've got all that intensity. We're not just talking about skills on that role. It's all that internal knowledge within a business as well that's missed, and
Completely.
they don't think about that when with the cost. And but one last thing, that when stress becomes normalized, people start recognizing it as a warning sign, and leaders dismiss fatigue as a lack of resilience, or and that actually fuels the collapse. So, but prevention is cheaper than recovery, both financially and
Ah,
culturally.
I really like that actually. That's a
Yeah,
really good.
prevention is cheaper than recovery every single
Prevention
time.
is cheaper than recovery. I love that. Yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah, we often hear people dismissing it as, oh, they're just weak or they can't do the hours, but they're not
Yeah,
actually addressing what the issue is and why there is actual burnout. And if there is a toxic work culture or there is bullying going on, then
yeah,
that is going to lead to burnout. And that's very different from being tired, but you're tired just because, you're doing a lot of hours, but you might actually be doing a lot of hours, but still be really enjoying it. That's a
exactly.
different,
I think as well, many burnout issues come from unclear expectations and unmanaged scope creep.
yeah.
I train managers check in on how work is being done, so people
Hmm.
aren't checking if everybody's okay. I mean, if you haven't got mental health professionals or team leaders or people within your team that are mental health trained, they would see it. And a lot of businesses tick box exercise to do a mental health thing, but they really need that, have people trained in there to recognize it, to help the company
Yeah.
make more profit and actually retain that those good employees that just have so much skill.
Yeah. Absolutely. Really good point.
Absolutely. So if someone's listening right now though, that suspects that they're working in a toxic environment, what are the red flags they should be they should stop ignoring?
Yeah. I would say if your boss or colleague is constantly criticizing you publicly rather than doing it privately, any kind of unjustified criticism that's not backed up. I'd say also being excluded from either team meetings or team decisions if you feel you're being ostracized. That's
Mm,
generally a sign that, something's not right. And I'd say any kind of intimidating behaviors. So when it becomes really personal, like a personal attack,
mm,
then that's usually a sign as well. And this isn't to say that bosses shouldn't be criticizing or giving feedback to their teams. Absolutely not.
agreed.
Feedback is absolutely essential.
It's a gift, isn't it?
It's a gift. And I think it's very important to not confuse the two. Feedback is constructive and it's a way to help your team improve and to get better. But when someone is humiliating you in public and it's constant, when it's unjustified, they can't back it up with facts, that's very different. That's not feedback, that's public humiliation. And
Mm,
that's done from a place of insecurity. And that's effectively
absolutely.
linked to narcissistic leadership. And that I think is the difference between a true leader and someone who's just a boss who just wants to be there calling the shots but not really making improvements to the teams. That's very different from feedback, I think.
Absolutely. And when you've got people dreading going to work and that constant
Oh,
fear of making a mistake, so, and gossip dominating conversations, terrible.
that's always
Yes.
a sign. I think, I always knew when I was happy because my happiest moments, I was actually quite happy going to work. I enjoyed being around my team. I
Mm,
enjoyed my team leader's presence and leadership style. But those moments where I dreaded, like, really dreaded going to work, I knew that was not a good sign. And so I think listen to your gut,
mm,
and your gut's rarely wrong. And if it's to that point where it just hurts in your stomach and you just constantly feel uncomfortable and scared and
mm.
diminished, then it's time to look for something else.
Oh, absolutely. You're gonna have to look after your mental and physical health here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen cultures transform. What are some of the non negotiables to turning things around, in your opinion?
Okay. Yeah, great question, because there's some real non-negotiables here that are like clear accountability, transparent and open communication. Again, I'll mention psychological safety. I think it's so important. I use that in education. I use it in businesses. It always works. Consistent follow through as well. Um, that's needed, and leadership generally committed to visibility, sustainable change as well. So they're willing to step up, accept responsibility, and be there for the team. You're like, I would liken leaders to be the marketing people for their team. They're making sure the business knows how good they are, what
Yeah.
they're doing, but they're an unblocker. Okay, so they make sure their teams have everything they need to do their job.
Yeah.
And a cheerleader, you're on the sidelines, you're providing feedback, constructive feedback, and you're going, this is brilliant, well done. And then you market that, you go out to the business, look what we've done, look what the team have done, look what this individual's done.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful thing. And that's how you get the cultures back, because unfortunately sometimes that ingrained nature is so deep that culture, it will change. It will mean changing a lot of people there.
Yeah,
But
I
you've
think they have to be willing to change, though, don't they? They have to be willing to
got,
take that on.
absolutely. And there's also going to be silent saboteurs there, those who are resisting
Mm.
change behind closed doors. So if you haven't done proper business change management when you're changing things,
Yeah.
you're always going to get the haters.
Always.
Because every time, and I like those cultural shifts when consequences match behaviours and the right people are promoted based on values
Yeah.
and not popularity or tender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about making sure we got the right people in the right roles for the right reasons.
But what do you do with those people who are just the blockers and are really trying to resist any change? How do you work with those
It's
people?
proper business change management. You found out why.
Yeah.
There'll be a reason. Now, as you know this as well as I do, Georgina, as human beings, we are set. Default is no change. We like
Yeah.
comfort. We don't like to change.
True.
And we just don't know why that person is fed up. Now, it might be they're just very unhappy in their role, or they don't like the person who's doing the transformation, or they don't like their leader, or there could be a multitude of issues. It might be that they're leaving the company and they just want to cause disruption.
Yeah.
There could be loads of reasons, but unless you have that psychological safety so people feel safe to be honest and open, you're never going to truly find out why. They'll make excuses, they'll lie there, because it's that fear, isn't it?
Mm.
It's when you get those empty languages and empty slogans, they just don't work, and those people can be in the background insidiously affecting the productivity of the business and bringing down the morale of the team, and you lose money, you lose profit
Yeah.
because your team's not fully engaged.
Yeah.
What's that phrase? It only takes one bad apple to spoil a barrel.
Completely. Yeah.
And
One bad
so
apple.
true.
It's so true. Yeah. It's identifying the bad apple and it's how do you actually get them on board? Because sometimes, as you say, there is an underlying issue. And once you get to the bottom of that, you're able to bring them on board and then they do become a champion.
Absolutely. And you can actually work with these people on their behaviors, because if they're their behaviors and you have those behaviors within your contracts, it's a way of being able to say, look, you're not being collaborative here, you're not assisting, so work
Mm.
with us to let's work through this together. They have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
They can't, I mean, if you're not, I mean, that was one thing I was going to ask you as well about kindness.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can kindness and commercial success really coexist? Or is there still a bit of a stigma around empathetic leadership, which is what you need for a proper culture?
I think you need empathetic leadership because if your team do not think you are kind, they genuinely will not want to be led by you. So being kind is not a weakness. It's
Mm.
actually being seen as human. And actually, a lot of the businesses you work in are very much about people, you know. And so the same with the industry I was in. I was in the banking industry for 14 years before setting up Invicta Vita, my coaching business. And it was all about people, you know, even though you're dealing in numbers and sometimes quite big numbers, at the end of the day, you're looking after clients. And so they were expecting the best level of service, and we had to be led by kind people in order to be successful.
Mm.
And I think in situations where a leader is seen as not kind, he's not going to get as much from his team. And if you think back to every time you've worked overtime or done something extra for a team leader, it's generally been because you've liked them, because you've thought they're a kind person, they're empathetic, they're understanding. And so you'll give back. And you find that teams give back to leaders that they see as kind and empathetic. And I certainly found that the best people working for me were those I was kind to. They wanted to give everything and do their best because they saw me as someone who was kind. Whereas those who treated people badly, generally, they didn't get very much back.
I mean, that stigma that kindness signals weakness is so outdated. I mean,
It's so
it's proven
outdated.
by modern results. I mean, I've written an academic article, done
Mm-hmm.
all the research into kindness within the workplace and education, and the results are there. And it is often rejected by forward-thinking organisations that aren't committed to sustainable growth and success.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And linking to that, what would you say then is one mind shift that's needed for every leader in 2025 if they want to retain the best talent?
Okay, yeah, it's a change of mindset. So it's a shift from seeing employees as expendable resources to recognizing them as valued partners.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think generally appreciating individual contributions and supporting career growth,
Mm.
and obviously and aligning company values with personal aspirations, and that builds that loyalty. So
Yeah.
that's good. Boosts morale and really helps retain that top talent effectively amid, let's be honest, competitive markets. I'm thinking 2025 connection
Yeah.
connection beats control.
No, I like
So
that.
people stay where they feel seen, heard, and supported, and leaders who default to command and control thinking will bleed talent faster than any competitor
Yeah.
can steal them.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think
Mm.
some people, they do have a really outdated notion of what it is to be a leader. And actually, it's about having the best people and equipping them with the ownership to actually do their job, not micromanaging them. Because if you
Oh,
trust your people and you treat them like adults, they will do a good job generally. If you treat them like children, well, guess what? They're not going to be very happy at work, are they? And they
no,
will probably look elsewhere. So it's actually giving them that independence to do their job.
absolutely agree. And I mean, the best employees no longer stay for salary alone now, are they? They stay for alignment, autonomy, and impact. And I think to keep them leaders must lead like partners, not overseers.
Yeah.
These are adults you're working with, and
Yeah.
also human beings.
Yeah.
So
There you go. They're
it,
human
just
beings.
because you're in a position of power doesn't mean that you're above them. It
Yeah.
just means that you have more responsibility to make sure that your department is successful as well
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
looking after them.
Yeah.
They're in your care at the end of the day.
They're in your care. And if they do well, then you do well, surely.
Exactly, that's the partnership, isn't it? You're working together so everybody looks good. They get the promotion, they get the pay rise, you get promoted, you get recognised. Everyone's a winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nobody a winner when evil's knocking on the door.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, there's still a lot of talk about working from home versus working in the office. I know some firms have gone back to 2 days a week in the office. Some are saying, no, we need people in the office at least 4, if not 5 days a week. What's your take on that? What's the best in terms of what the data shows and then what your experience has taught you as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, data consistently shows productivity thrives in flexible work environments. So people perform best with autonomy and trust and choice. So my experience confirms rigid return to work office policies do backfire
Yeah.
by hurting morale, productivity, creativity, and retention. And balanced flexibility respects individuals' preferences and enhancing performance and employee satisfaction overall. Because when people, well, they work best depending on the task, the team, and the person. So the future isn't about one location. I think it's about removing unnecessary friction so people can do their best work. Mandatory office attendance signals mistrust. If you in my
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
opinion, you mistrust or you're not able to set the right goals to check the output from your teams. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, flexibility isn't a perk, it's now a basic condition of attracting and retaining great people.
That's so true, actually. I was speaking to someone I know, and he was interviewing a few candidates, and he said the first question by every single candidate was, is there flexible working?
It's on
And
everybody's
it's on
mind.
everybody's mind. It was the first question before pay, before promotion opportunities, before team structure. It was really, am I able to work from home a few days a week? And that is on everyone's list now, as you said. It's
There's a lot more
non-negotiable.
companies doing that, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot
And
more.
people who talk, social media, everybody's talking to each other.
Yeah,
Everybody's so why wouldn't you go on Glassdoor, you go
yeah.
on any of those
Love Glassdoor.
platforms.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so good.
it's so good.
I just wanted, sorry, just wanted to go back because I wanted to ask. There was a question I had about the advice you would give to someone feeling drained or devalued at work, but afraid to speak up or walk away. Sorry, that was for earlier
Yeah,
on.
that's a really good question. I would say if you're feeling devalued at work and you're afraid to speak up, it's important to find a mentor. That was one of the reasons I set up Invicta Vita last year. Is I saw a lot of people throughout my career feeling really devalued, struggling with their mental health, experiencing bullying at work. So I wanted to provide a kind of system of support with different mentors who could provide support and advice to those struggling. And I'm very familiar to those types of feelings. So my advice would be to find a mentor from outside the organization, I would say, who will be completely impartial and objective and who can help you talk through those issues, help boost your confidence. You know, a lot of people, when they're suffering with certain areas, they're afraid to speak to someone because they see that as a sign of weakness, but it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually really important. And you'll be surprised how many people that you meet who you might see as really resilient or really successful who have been through similar journeys. And so just speaking to someone, getting that advice, and then maybe it turns into more formal coaching, I think is really useful.
Absolutely. I think people would really benefit from that. I mean, recognizing your worth and value is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
For your own mental health, to recognize how what value you have rather than being devalued. Yeah, yes, I think any person going through that would be good to connect with you on that, definitely.
Yeah, and always happy to share my story because I know it's not unique. I know a lot of people have been through that, and just having someone to talk to who can give you their experience and share some advice, I think is really beneficial. You know, you're not alone. You might think you're alone, but it's really important to not suffer in silence. That's what I would say. So don't
Oh,
keep it bottled
absolutely.
up. I know a lot of people keep it bottled up and they think they might be alone, but so many people are going through it. And I just find, I don't know about you, but I find sometimes just talking about things, you just feel that release, don't you? And
Absolutely. I mean, both you and I have gone through that, haven't we? I've in 2006, I was in a very dark place because of burnout, and
mm,
it affects more people than we realize. But people, especially men as well, are not very good at saying their feelings,
yeah,
and sometimes we have to put our male ego away and accept help, and because it's the best thing for us.
I'm really
I'm
glad you
living
said
through.
that. I'm really glad you
Yeah.
said that. I do find a lot of my clients who come to me about conflict resolution or bullying are female actually.
Mm,
Um, and I do feel as women, we tend to talk more openly about these sorts of
absolutely.
things.
Yes.
But it can affect men as well. And I just want to encourage people, no
Mm,
matter who you are, to feel as though you can talk about it, because I have seen, grown men being really viciously bullied in the workplace. I've seen men who actually had to take time off work because the bullying was so bad. I saw a male colleague go through a really vicious grievance and he didn't have the support he wanted. I was very
mm,
young at the time. And I remember looking back, and that's one of my regrets. I look back on that thinking, I wish I'd been a bit more experienced and that I had been able to help him, because he really didn't have the support he needed. And in the
mm.
end, he chose to walk away rather than fight it because he just couldn't take it. And that's one of my
Yeah.
regrets, that I wish I could have been more experienced at that point and supported him. And I saw another male colleague who was very experienced. He had over 30 years' experience, and he was being bullied, and it was affecting his sleep, it was affecting his health. And he lost so much weight, and he lost
Mm,
weight because he had stopped eating due to the stress and he wasn't sleeping properly. So it affects all aspects of your life. And
absolutely.
he he was just broken by it. And I remember telling him, you need to speak up, we need to launch a case against this person. And I just remember him being so terrified. And it just showed me that it's not just young people, it's not
Mm,
just women, it can be anyone. And actually, generally, these type of narcissistic leaders will go for someone who they deem to be weak and who they think they can get away with it. So,
absolutely. And actually, I'm also a qualified counsellor. So some of the people I counsel have come from those narcissistic
wow.
relationships, either personal or at work, and they are men and women.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It really does, because if people knew what stress really does, you wouldn't want to get stressed over long
No.
periods of time. It's
Yeah, it's
life's
the
too
biggest
short.
killer. It's the biggest killer.
Absolutely.
I know when I'm stressed, my gut is the worst ever.
Well,
I
if it, for men and women, yeah, it affects, our immune system. It
Yeah.
affects, I mean, if we're stressed, antibodies are released,
Mm.
and as if there's no, and it's released as if we've got a foreign body in us.
Yeah.
And that you just mentioned, the cancer and things like that. Those antibodies will attack healthy cells if there isn't anything to attack.
Yeah.
So it's people need to understand that, if you haven't got good coping mechanisms, or you haven't got people to help you through those really stressful times, get someone, because it's so vital for your mental and physical health. The
Ab-
mind body connection is huge.
It's huge. No, absolutely. And leading on to that, what would the data and then what would you say to a CEO who's still clinging on to that top down leadership, what we see as very old fashioned?
I would say they need to take one of Hit Leadership's multi-generational leadership training courses, because
Love it.
data data clearly demonstrates top-down leadership. It reduces innovation, employee engagement, morale, productivity, everything. It's like a thriving modern companies empower teams, encourage collaboration, promote open communication, and actively seek diverse employee input. Having the same people, like a lot of people I saw started recruiting people like themselves. Well, no, it's because you get comfortable and you don't want people to challenge you, and that's because
Mm,
they're not humble. And you're if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to surround yourself.
completely.
You need to surround yourself with the most intelligent people
I
and be
agree.
prepared to accept that you're not right about something, because you will be called out. You've got intelligent people, they're going to be more likely to tell you the truth. And I
Completely.
think,
I think that's some of the best advice I was
yeah.
ever given. Always surround yourself with people who are more intelligent
Mm,
and who add skills you don't have because you can't be the best at everything.
no. And we have to accept that.
Yeah.
No one knows everything. No one's the best at everything.
No.
I mean, adaptation to inclusive leadership isn't. It's not an option. It's essential for organisational survival, growth, and long-term competitive advantage. I mean, clinging on to control may feel safe, but it breeds silence and compliance. And CEOs must stop leading like they're in the 1995s,
Yeah.
or risk becoming irrelevant in 2025. And let's be honest,
Yeah.
employees want to contribute, not to comply. They
Yeah.
want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
No, completely. I mean, it's not the army, and you do
No.
look at some organizations, and it does feel very military like. And I've
Mm,
always felt the best teams were those where the team leader was getting everyone in the team involved, engaged. And I always performed the best when I wasn't micromanaged. The
mm,
worst bosses I ever had were the ones who would micromanage, and they would micromanage everyone. And it was literally about knowing everyone's whereabouts and knowing every little minute detail. The best bosses, they let me get on with my job, with my day. They were there if I needed them, but they weren't suffocating me
mm.
or anyone in the team.
I mean, that top-down leadership really limits that problem solving, and like you just said, it drives talent out and leaves blind spots in decision making. So it, I understand why some business people do that. It's their business, but no one's going to like your business as much as you ever.
Yeah,
They're there to earn a living, yes, and it's good to be around, but you know, future fit leaders listen more than they lecture, and win because their people choose to follow them, not just obey. And I think if you can have people following you, you're a great leader. All the greatest leaders had great followers.
that is so
And
true.
that's the key. And eventually people will see through facades. So if you're pretending to be humble and a good leader, and one thing I've seen is that businesses promote people into positions of management and leader just because they're good at a particular role, not
Mm,
because they're people,
yeah,
people managers. And this is, people get promoted into positions of failure, and it's not fair on them either.
that's
So
so
if
true,
if
actually.
you haven't got management training in place, modern day leadership training that understands all generations,
Yeah.
then you will have problems. And it's all about in retaining your employees, in retaining that skill set. You're not going to do that with top down old fashioned leadership at all.
Actually, that's really interesting what you said because some people are so good at their technical role
Mm,
and then they do get promoted into a leadership type role and they've never had any experience managing people and
mm,
they might not actually enjoy managing people, which is fine. It's not for everyone. They might just be really good at doing the technical side of the
mm.
role, but how do you deal with that then? At what point do you say, well, actually, this person's not really suited to leadership? They're much better just doing their previous role.
Well, it may be that they're going for leadership because it's the only way to get more money and promotion.
Right.
So I've worked with a company where we looked at career progression within those technical roles,
Yeah.
where they could get to, but that to be a leader or a manager, you have to have, here's a skill set. So I put in place, well, made sure the company had in place personal development plans that included where they want to get to in their role, where they are now, and then you can work out how you're going to get there. So what training is required to get you to that skill set for that next role? And each role each leadership management role should have a set of skills that are required, behaviors and traits
Yeah.
as well. And they must be able to recite the values of the business and understand them, because your our whole culture is built around the values and the behaviors and the traits of the leaders there. So it's so important. It really
It's
is.
so important. And I think it's just understanding that leadership isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But if you
Yeah.
are going to take on a leadership role, dealing with people is key, and letting them have the ownership to do their roles is
Mm.
key, because if they feel that you don't trust them, then they will not deliver.
Absolutely. And I've actually seen in companies, the employees are working against the company,
Wow.
because I mean it's large corporate organizations, so you don't actually see that lack of productivity as much. But I've seen employees actively sabotaging the business because of the
Wow.
narcissistic leadership that they're being dealt.
It's like mutiny.
It is, and it happens. I've seen it not just once, quite a few
Yeah.
times. People will, yeah, I'll take your money, and also I'll make sure you suffer for causing me pain and suffering and bullying and old-fashioned leadership. They do.
Wow.
um, and people will try. It's like when you tell someone not to do something, they want to try a way to get around it.
Yeah.
So you think you have full control because you've got smart goals in place, but when there's figures involved, you can get any way around it, and you can achieve your
Yeah.
goals as well as sabotaging as well.
Yeah. Actually, I just thought of a question. I know it wasn't planned, but is there one particular industry that you look at and you go, I'd really like to do more with that industry because there's so much potential there and need for a shift?
I would say in either accountants or in education.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky where I work at BPP in London, because it's great leadership there, and it's not top down heavy. It is
Yeah.
modern daily. So if people want to make sure they've got great teachers, if they want to make sure they've got good accountants and they retain and they're not doing burnout, then yeah, they're those industries that I think really need that a little bit of help.
Yeah. 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 No,
I
that's
think
great.
there's few IT companies as well, unfortunately. So the larger you get, the more away you are from the employees, and they're the
Mm.
ones that have all the ideas. They're the ones who can help your company grow and see things you won't, because they're at the front line.
Yeah. Well, it's what I always said. It's people by people at the end of the day. So,
It's so I don't know why people lose. Well, I do know why. It's called the power paradox, isn't it? When someone
Mm.
gets into a position of power, suddenly their empathy goes and their arrogance increases, and
Mm.
sometimes if you're not self-aware, it just creeps up on you.
Yeah.
And I do feel for people that are put into positions of management or leadership who have not had any training, because it's it's really sad to see, because they could actually make or break themselves and their reputation, as well as the company's reputation as well.
Absolutely. Mark, you've been terrific. I've really enjoyed this. It's been really interesting speaking to you. And I think the work you do is really invaluable and really needed. And so I would just urge companies who are feeling that maybe morale's a bit low or they want to increase productivity to reach out to you, because the work you do is
That's very kind
fantastic.
of you to say, Georgina, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me. I mean, I think again, I love the things that you do as well. So,
Thank you.
I've always got your number on speed dial. Should I have anybody who's going through that bullying element
Thank you.
with a big business, I think that's so important to have that support as well. So, and thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the questions.
Thank you so much, Mark. You've been a gem. It's been wonderful to do this podcast with you. So thank you. Thank you for your
No
time.
problem at all.
Thank you. Really good point.
Absolutely.